All right, welcome back, guys. So we're in this lecture, we're going to look at the different types of CSS. Okay, so but first, let's create a new folder. So I'm going to right click and create a new folder, the new folder, and I'm going to name this folder CSS. Okay, all in caps. All right, and let it just be here. Okay. Next, let's open up our code editor. So I'll open my code editor, and you remember we always have our browser beside our code editor. So I'm just going to open my code editor and my browser. All right, so I'll make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, so basically this is how we like to code on this tutorial. We have our code editor and our browser by the side. So basically now, what I want to do is I'm going to open the folder, the CSS folder, and I'll start creating files within it. So basically, click on File on your Visual Studio Code Editor, click on File, and select Open Folder. So I'll click on Open, and I would say CSS, and then I'll select Folder. Okay, so the CSS folder is open, but remember there's nothing in the folder. Okay, so I would minimize the file explorer, and I would say file and new file. So I could have easily just said Control N, okay, to create a new file, but then I just wanted it to see. Okay, now I'll click on save. So that'll be Control S to save, and I'll just say CSS. I'll just say index.html. All right, and then I'll save. So basically it's going to save within our CSS folder. So I'll save, and yeah, so the file is saved, and we have a blank file. There's nothing on the file. So remember, in the HTML lecture we talked about Emmet. Okay, so instead of going to write doc type and stuff, I have Emmet enabled. If you do not have Emmet enabled on your code editor, your Visual Studio Code editor, you can easily watch our tutorial on how to enable Emmet. So but with Emmet, what I basically need to do is I just press the exclamation mark and then I hit tab. Okay, so when I press the exclamation mark and hit tab, okay, let me make this thing a little bit bigger. I press the exclamation mark and I hit tab. Basically it generates this HTML template for me. Okay, this is like a starter template. So I think this is big enough. I hope you can see. So now let's add a paragraph tag. So remember our Emmet shortcut. I'm going to click P and I'll hit tab. It generates a paragraph tag for me. So if you've not watched the video on Emmet, on how to enable Emmet and use Emmet on your Visual Studio Code, I suggest you actually go back and watch it because it helps you code a lot faster. So I'm just going to say this is a paragraph. Okay, and I'll save. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to open this page in the browser, and one way to do it is to simply come to your CSS and click on open. Right, this is a paragraph. So let me make this a bit big. All right, so that's fine. That's one way to do it, but there is a better way. Okay, and basically it's like a shortcut. So basically if I want to open, I'll close this up on the browser. If I want to open it in the browser, I'm just going to press Alt and B, and then it opens in the browser. So that's like a way to save time and see what you're coding in real time. So basically if you want to have the same feature on your Visual Studio Code editor, basically what you need to do is to click on the extension and search for open in browser. So open in browser. Okay, see, I have it installed, but if you don't have it installed, just click on install and it installs. You can go with the first one by TechER. Okay, and once you do that and you press Alt and B, it opens your HTML file in your default browser. Okay, so now let's continue. So we're going to talk about three kinds of CSS: the inline CSS, internal CSS, and the external CSS. So first, let's talk about inline CSS. Now remember that we said our CSS syntax, for example, if we want to change the color, I'm just gonna put it down here so we can see clearly. So we said if you want to change the color, the syntax is P and then a space, curly brace, and then we say color. Then we put in colon and we specify the value red, and then semicolon to close the declaration. Okay, so basically this P is the selector, that's for this paragraph. Okay, we don't need this space here. The P is selecting the paragraph, okay, and whatever is within the paragraph, that's the content of the paragraph. And this declaration here, basically the color is the property, you know, that we want to style. So we can style the color, we can style, you know, the font weight, the font family, different properties that exist, and we're going to see in our CSS lecture. And then we want the color to be red. This red is simply the value, you know, we want to assign to this property. So P color red. All right. So basically, instead of leaving it like this in a straight line, we can bring this to the next line and bring this to the next line. Okay, so this is actually how you arrange your CSS, because in this manner you can add another property value pair. So for example, if I want to say the font size, so if I say font hyphen size and I add a colon and I want it to be 16 pixels, for example, 16 px, and then I close with a semicolon. So it's easier for me to just keep adding more properties to this paragraph tag if I have my syntax spread out like this. Okay, all right, so so now let's look at the first kind of CSS, which is the inline CSS. Inline CSS basically is placed within the HTML elements. So this paragraph is an HTML element, right? Remember, an HTML element is opening tag, content, and closing tag, right? Now, the inline CSS is placed within the opening tag. So I'm going to give a space, and to introduce CSS to this paragraph tag, I'll need to say that I want to add a style, style, okay? And that's, so what is the style I want to add? Essentially, I want to say the color should be red, right? So I'll say that style is equals to, and whatever it is I want to add, I'm going to put it in double colons, right? Double quotes, okay? So remember, what I want to add is the color, which is red. So I can just go ahead and say color, okay, and let me give a space and say red, and then I would add my semicolon to close. Of course, my code editor is showing me the color right here. Okay, now I'll go ahead and save, but before then I'm going to delete this and then I'll save again. So now if I refresh the browser, what do you expect? Well, the color of this is my paragraph, which is black, becomes red. Now let's see. I'm going to big up my browser a bit and I'll refresh. Bam. So you see the color here, this is a paragraph, is now red. So essentially this is an inline style. Why? Because it's within the elements, the opening tag for the particular element is styles. So it's in line with this element, in other words, right? But I know as you're listening right now, you already know that, wow, there's something wrong here, because does it mean that you would have to add your style to each one of the elements you have on your HTML page. Now that's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be cumbersome. Okay, so what if you had let's say 20 paragraphs, okay, on your page? Are you going to start copying and pasting, the style across the 20 paragraphs? So that's one of the disadvantages of having, an inline style. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why you should not use an inline style. Okay, so now in our next lecture we're going to look at the second kind of styling. Okay, and that is internal CSS. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this lecture. I hope you understood it. If you don't, go back and replay the lecture. See you in the next one.